I would say regardless of your level of entrepreneurship, the Expertise Project is an incredible place to start to bring things into more clearer focus, to save you a lot of time and energy to when you start to sell, you start to put yourself out there that your customers are going to relate to and connect to, and ultimately is going to bring you success. I would say the very first module is still something I go back to as a key piece for any business owner to help them find that solidity of their clarity of brand. I probably still would say the very first module of brand identity or identity brand. I think even just taking those questions, I had to pull it up here because I look at these every day because I need to remind myself. It's kind of like a mantra, you know, when you have a mantra that you use as kind of your go-to to help center and provide clarity in your own day-to-day life and practice. To me, as a business owner, as someone who has a product or a service to sell, I need to know, what is my expertise? Where does my credibility come from? What am I offering? You know, all the things that you ask in that first section of just knowing your brand. And there's so much that go into it. You were such a huge catalyst of change. You're a constant source of inspiration. I love working with you on your book. Now we're talking about collaborating together, incorporating the work you do with the Expertise Project into my authors, moving their book forward in terms of their brand clarity, their voice, their message. It's just like, you know, when you kind of have that window of opportunity crack open, and then that window turns into like that garage door opening. It's just like, you just step on through. And I'm just so grateful.
Because the more specific you get, the more opportunities come to you.
I mean, I can't even begin to talk about how impactful the Expertise Project has been, and you have been, because 4 months ago was when things started clicking. When things became like really clicked and focused, you were a huge part of that. It goes back to value. Like, what's the value of the work that I'm providing? Not just the problem, but the value. And then the next conversation was, okay, how much are you charging? And when I told you that, you were the person that said, way too low for what the value you bring. You were such a huge catalyst of my transformation of not only just being clear, but of obtaining value of what I do. So immediately, and I hadn't even committed to joining you at that point. I think we were just still in that midst of you were putting this together. Once that came in and just hit me like a thunderbolt, I'm like, well, sure. Sign me up. I don't know when exactly the conversation happened, but you had asked me that question about, what do you do? And I think my answer was kind of similar, but it was kind of here, there, and everywhere. And you're like, no, you help people write books. And it's like, okay. In my mind, I'm like, there's more. But you're like, no, you help people write books. You solve the problem of helping people write books super fast. I mean, your thing at the time was the accelerated writing process. The time that you're saving people from having to sit down and write out a 10,000 word document would take months for some people, maybe longer. We can do it in an hour. I know when we started talking about the program, my initial reaction to it was, I can't take another thing on. It just felt like another thing that I was going to be able to give 10, 15, 20% to, because I had all these other things going on. But I also knew from meeting with you and that immediate connection we had of what this was for, that it was to help bring all of those things into a centralized area of expertise and focus and attention that is what I needed. So I feel like you and I kind of met at just the right time to really get me into that level of clarity. It really came down to probably about 4 months ago when we met, that I was still in the midst of tinkering with a lot of these experiments, but with one in specific that I had just started testing out over the summer. So it was still very much in its infancy 4 months ago, that when we met and we started talking about it and explaining this idea of using Zoom calls and meeting people in video to capture their story and produce